This segment, we're going to be providing a general product overview of Airbox Systems MOSAIC. I will touch on the Air version, which is called ACANS at times, but this will not be an overview for that. But there's some clear linkages between the ground and air versions that we'll be bringing up. So at the end of this segment, you should be relatively proficient with all of the features. The idea here is that you can be trained on the system in under an hour. So we'll spend about a half hour or less going through all the user features so that you can pick up the application and run with it. So when you log on the system, which is covered in another video of how to download and log in, the first thing that pops up is the screen and where you are located. In this case here, we are in St. Petersburg, Florida. We have a general satellite image. If you don't see that satellite image or a map that looks clear, you can select the map layering feature here and then go under Google Maps and select either hybrid, satellite, terrain. There's a lot of different features that you can pipe in. We're going to stay in the satellite version because it's nice and clean. So let's go through some of the features. All right, so if you look on the left side of the screen, there are a few mission data tabs. You also have a compass at the top, so it will tell you direction of travel, videos, bookmarks, connected users, timeline, and checklist. So let's start with the most important part is understanding who's online. So we have a handful of users. Here we can see that there's 7 users. If I open that tab, you can see the those that are online or have a green dot next to them. Those that are offline have a red dot. And if I want information on a particular user, I can click on the name. And here you can see QRF is actually user number GDS09. And there's a unique ID, the last update, and then several options. So let's say that QRF3 in this case was on the move. We could select view, follow, navigate to, or navigate to with auto update. So we can very quickly find the user and then begin to track or navigate to. If you select on the auto update, that provides you a dynamic route. So as you are moving and that tracked asset is moving, you are going to get a dynamic route to that user. So as you get closer, that route will change, or further away, it will constantly update you with the quickest route possible to that user. All right, so the toggle buttons on the left are actually breadcrumbs. So if you want to see the history of a tracked asset, you can toggle that on or off to see the breadcrumbs from that user. And in a later video, we'll actually show you that in action. All right, and there's a search feature up at the top. So if you have hundreds of users and you're trying to find them, you don't want to scroll through, you can come up here and write in a particular username and search. All right, the next area is timeline. So we know where our users are. We can see them on the map. We know how to find them in the tab. The next thing is the timeline, and this is how we can communicate with our team. So I can send a message out to the entire team here. You can see it's going to everyone. If I wanted to select an individual user, I could come to the tab and say, hey, I want to send Sean a message. So I'm going to say, hi, Sean. And then you can see the difference between those going out. The communications going out to everybody will be in black, and then or have a black background, and then it'll be a red background for individual conversations. There's also the ability to enable channels. We'll cover that in a later video, but that capability is in there so that you can speak to users within a group, much like a group chat. Also, there is a strike or an alert feature in here that you can tailor to have various messages and send the alert out with the press of one button rather than having to type that out. Right, so we can know how to communicate with the users. We also have the ability to see them and find them within the Connected Users tab. Let's go to the bookmark setting. And this is a great way of finding your different areas of operation and then saving that so that as you select between the different areas of operation, you do it at the touch of a button versus having to search for an area or find it moving the pane of glass around. So we'll set one up real quick. It's very fast to determine. We're going to use the Tampa Airport here as a location of interest. And now that I have that set on my screen, I'm just going to put add bookmark, label it, and you'll see it drop down in the bottom. So now I can go through each one of the sites that I have interest in and see very quickly where my team is. Great. You'll also see here the AIS vessel data. So we have the ability to turn on and turn off AIS vessel tracking. In this case, we have about 15 or 20% of the global traffic being mapped, and that's just for demo purposes, but you can see here this live vessel data. And that'll be more prominent in some of the other areas we'll explore as we move along here. All right, so let's go down to South America to touch on another unique feature within the system. There's always a lot of conversation around what happens when you lose connectivity. And we'll kind of go through that. So right now, you can see, or it may look familiar, that we're using the Google API to provide our background map. And that's evident here under Google Maps. But we also have the ability to create maps and stitch in high-res drone imagery. I'm going to select street here. This is the Airbox street chart. And you can see a very basic map in the back, and we can tailor this to look a number of different ways, including dark view. But as I zoom in, you can see that we have some high-res drone imagery that's already stitched into the map. This is a small, looks like maybe 5 or 6 city blocks of information or of imagery. We can, of course, do much more than that, and all of that can be brought in. So now that I can track my targets across these areas and see how they move in that over that high-res drone imagery versus what may be either Esri or, in this case, a Google map. You can see there's really no comparison in the type of fidelity with the high-res drone imagery. Now this image was taken from a drone that was overhead about 1,200 feet over this area, was able to pull that imagery in. So those are some of the bookmarks. So let's hit one of the other features here while we're in the area. So we've got a high-res drone imagery. We've got a background map. We can see the targets that are on there. We have our connected users. Now let's start to stream some video. We're not in Bogota right now, but we'll use this as an example while we're here. Let's assume that someone is this target is in this particular office, and we want to get some video of that area. So you're going to watch the timeline bump here in just a minute on the left side of the screen when someone starts to film video. So we can see that here, that GDS07 has started a video share. So now we go into the videos, and I can see here under my live streams at GDS07, I can see their video. So now I can track their movements wherever they go, and I can see them in real time on the map. We could also pull in, while this is a device, this could also be a drone image, or it could be a helmet cam or body cam. And once that image is done, once it's been turned off, you can see under the recorded video section where it sits. So there's 30 seconds of GDS07 streaming some video. All right, so let's go here and look at some of those recorded videos. So let's hit this. There we go. And then there you go, in real time. You've got some videos well, not in real time. These are recorded, but they're in the saved files here for after action review and further analysis as well. You can see that they're time stamped, but great user feature there. All right, the last feature that we have in the video section is called iSend. And that is pretty unique, where if you don't have a particular user that's in the system, but you want to reach out to that phone or that device or that person in the public and stream their GPS location as well as their video, you can simply type in the phone number. We'll do a fictitious one here. And then hit send request. That person will receive a text message that says Airbox Systems would like to access their GPS and their camera. If they hit accept, they will start to stream their data, much like we saw here in the example of the target moving through the office building. So when considering things such as active shooter situations where you need to reach a member of the public and you have their cell phone number, that is a great way to achieve some situational awareness in that area. All right, so we're going to pull out of this area and go back over to California to show you some of the other mapping features. As I'm coming across here, you can see the amount of AIS vessel data that we have It's pretty extensive, even though it's only down to 15 or 20%, but having that obviously for port and maritime security adds a lot of awareness. Okay, so looking at the Malibu mountain range here, and we're going to use this asset here as a person of interest that we're tracking. As I zoom in over the range, we will get closer. I'm going to show you some mapping data. One of the things that we've supported out in California with wildfire fighting is pulling in multiple users into one common operational picture very easily. Not just multiple, but literally hundreds of those users. So getting them into the system is pretty painless and can be done in a handful of minutes. But then let's talk about pulling in different charts and maps. So you can see here as I'm going through the charts, I can select different ones that are available. But one of the things, so the charts you're looking at now are pictures off operation room walls. So as I drill down here, you can see how great it is that it's when it's stitched on top. You can track the user very easily on any map. So as they move across, you can keep it on this map. I'm going to pan out so I can track the user now on this, and they stay stationary right on line here. You can see that these roads and the streets and the houses match up perfectly with the other maps. Now, while we're looking at a large, wide area, we could get very localized with the same thing and stack schematics of building plans on top. So let's use that same example, but pretend here that we are now looking at level 3, level 2, and level 1. Let me pull this user back a bit, and that would make a little more sense since these are layered. All right, so here we are, level 3, level 2, level 1. So you have a base, and then you can stack in multiple layers. Another way to see that too is looking at how we can pull in PDFs. So we'll switch over to the satellite view. Again, we're going to look at the Coliseum here in Los Angeles. Got a pretty good image, but how about pulling open source information in, such as building plans, schematics, site maps, these types of things. So what we're going to do is come into the user overlays and show you how we can drop a PDF in there, right? So these are dropped in as KML or XML files. And another great part about it is we still have access to the Google API, so I can pull up things such as Street View. So let's do something a little closer here to see the Coliseum. I'll select Street View, and there you go. There's the Coliseum through the trees. So that's, again, a great tool that can be accessed just at the touch of a button here. All right, so see some of the features there with the overlays. Let's go to creating some points of interest and dropping documents and annotations. We'll roll over here to the Staples Center to conduct this. But let's say the Staples Center is our area of operation. And let's come into the annotation suite and start to map some things off. First off, if I want to get an idea of how big the site is, instead of zooming in and zooming out, I can rest my fingers on the screen and I get a measuring device. All right, so I can start to get an understanding of how long something is, or how wide, or how far from one point to another. So if I need to run from one building to the next, how far of a movement is that? We can see here that's about 230 meters. All right. The next thing we'll do is start to map some of this off. So at the top left, you'll see a pencil. I'm going to select that, and then I get a range of tools here in the bottom. I get some drawing tools, some freehand lines, some straight lines, circles, rectangles, crowd estimators, map points of interest. Let's do this. Let's start with a crowd estimator. So I'm going to zoom in a little tighter here for this one, and let's see how many people. This looks like the top of a parking deck here. Let's see how many people that we can calculate would fit into that area. I'll select the annotation suite. I'll select crowd estimator, and then I'm just going to take my finger and just do a very rough drawing around the outside of this perimeter here. And there we go. I've got an area of just over 1,200 square meters, and I've got a population density for loose, tight, and mob crowds going anywhere from 10,200 up to 44,000 people that could fit in that area. Very useful for crowd control, looking at outdoor festivals and these types of things. So we'll hit done, and let's back out a little bit because we're going to look at this overall area of operation. So we're going to use the whole Staples Center as well as some of the surrounding infrastructure as our target area. I'm going to come back into the annotation suite, and this time I'm going to select geofence, and I'm going to just take my finger again and just hit the perimeter of this for illustration purposes. And what that's going to do now, it gives me an option to create a geofence, We're going to call this the Staples Center. And we're going to set an altitude of 1 foot, and let's assume that we may have air assets at, let's say, 2,500 feet. And I want to be alerted on anything entering that area. I could select exiting or both. In this case, we'll do entering. I can create an audio message or just a regular message or both, but let's just go with this. Right. So now I've got my perimeter around the outside. You can see that everybody was notified in the timeline that a geofence was that was created. I could promote that if I'd like. I can also zoom to the geofence. If I wasn't here right now and I was working in another area, I could easily go straight to that geofence. Another geofence feature, I'll close this out. We'll go into the settings here. If I wanted to show the hatching, so I wanted to just kind of close off the area for more dramatic effect here in the interior of the perimeter, I could select my geofences and then show the hatching. But we'll leave it off for now. So what will happen is anything that enters this geofence now in California, around the Staples Center in LA, will then trigger, and you'll see the perimeter will outline in red, and everybody on the user group, in this case, would get notified of someone breaching that perimeter. Other tools, I'm going to use the map spots for this one. Let's say that I don't want to call out a specific address or a lat long. I can use different points of interest here, or map spots rather, to delineate that. So now I can come into my timeline and tell my team to move to black 8. And they will know that they can come into, they'll come into the screen, they'll be able to search that and find map spot 8 and know that's where they need to be. If I need to move that around or adjust it, I can just tap it and move it anywhere I'd like. All right, some of the other features here are map points of interest. So let's say I wanted to set a command post up in this hotel. I can do that by going here, selecting CP. Let's do that. And now I'm going to back out a little bit and show you some of the freehand drawing. So let's create some routes by selecting the freehand. Let's go with a green, and then I'm going to just kind of freehand a route in and say this is the way we want to go. Also, I can do circles and squares. Let's create a landing zone here. So we're going to create a landing zone on the top of this parking deck structure we looked at earlier. Let's say I need at least 60 meters of area to land. I'm going to hit 60. I'm going to come in here, hit the circle. Let's do a fill for dramatic effect. I'll come right across the top of that with my finger and create the fill. Perfect. Now I'm going to create a point of interest. So creating a point of interest is very easy. I just select the area I want to create the point of interest. Select that option. Let's call this landing zone 4. And I can create a description if I want to. Let's just pretend and say it's 60 meters, and we can choose an image. How about a helicopter? All right, so that's saved. Now, my team can find the landing zone 4 very easily by using the other feature here, which is the search feature. So let's say that I am in this part of the town and I want to find landing zone 4. There you go. You can see landing zone 4 is a point of interest. I'm going to select the binoculars and it brings me right to that point. Now I have a host of options I can do in order to find that area. All right, so we'll close off the annotations feature by going through and showing that there is also an erase feature. So I can zoom out everything that I've created here, just a couple of lines and a few points. I'm going to now erase by touching delete, and then each area that I want to delete. So I can take care of the map spots, the command post, all of that stuff, and that can disappear just like that. So now I want to get rid of the geofence, so I'm going to touch inside the geofence, right? And then you can see here geofences, this Staples Center op. I'm just going to swipe and delete it, and off it goes. You'll see here that there's a what 3 words feature as well. We'll touch on that very quickly. But the thinking behind that is actually the world was mapped out by a private sector company in a 3 meter by 3 meter grid, so I can get a very tight pattern. Let's look at these, looks like these buses over here with the red cross. So we'll get tighter than that. So we're going to look at the parking spaces. So I'm going to touch on one vehicle, and then it shows me that the three words are ballot, sizes, and minus. If I go over just one parking space over, I get a whole nother set of three words. So I get a very tight location on a specific area. You can see here marble wonderfully in liability. Now we want to drop a document on this area. So let's assume that we have a floor plan of the building across the street. What I'm going to do is touch on that facility. I'm going to place the document. I'm going to go into my documents library, and we'll do a further video of how to upload documents, but it's very straightforward, very easy to do. I'm going to choose the document. I'm going to go to my shared folder because that's the folder which the rest of my team can see. You can see here I can just select that. I can even annotate over the top of that. And then I'm going to set, and then I will, let's call this a technical drawing, and I can save it. Now you can see there on the building there is an option for a technical drawing. So I can hover over, press, tap my finger on the screen, and you can see under documents there's a thing that says overhead. Boom, there we go. All right, so that concludes most of the basic features that you need to really start digging into the system. It's highly intuitive. I would encourage you to, as you continue through the process, just try things out. Just recognize too that there's always a help feature here, so you can go in and select MOSAIC help. There's a PDF user guide which will help you go through. That's got several things that can help, whether that's orientating the screen or doing rotations of the map, picking locations, different route options, all that's available there. Also, there are several videos that you can do as far as screen orientation and all that stuff on the app itself. Okay, so thank you all for joining, and hope this was